Willow Wokey.
Does this work? Okay, I can hold it. Dr. Reed, school board members, my name is Willow Walkie, she, her. I'm married to a wonderful woman, a grandparent, and the proud parent of 4 former FCPS students. The last one just graduated. I'm a trans woman and president of the Transgender Education Association and on the board of FCPS Pride. I'm here to talk about pride in our schools. I am proud of my kids. I'm proud of their FCPS education. FCPS has prepared, at least my kids, to move on to their next steps and beyond. I am proud, but also afraid. When I was in school in the 70s, I knew I was different and often bullied for being effeminate. Today we teach about those differences, and that helps reduce the bullying. Today the bullies we face most often are parents and politicians. They make a lot of noise that goes against what professionals like teachers, doctors, therapists, have learned about LGBTQIA+ students, banning inclusive books, forcing a trustworthy adult to out a kid to their parents, banning using chosen names, and banning appropriate health care. These are adults bullying kids. My sense is that these people are afraid of what they don't understand. They haven't learned the same lessons about differences that their kids have. Thank you for the Pride Proclamation. It helps. It would have helped me as a kid. But the trans community, whether visible, living their lives quietly, or in the closet, afraid of being themselves, all know someone who is fleeing their home, seeking refuge away from those that fear us. We are afraid. Those of us who are in the LGBTQIA+ community, those of us with LGBTQIA+ family members, see this wonderful proclamation, and we see your actions. And we see when your actions hide from that fear. Our community can't hide from that fear. And we need our allies to stand with us and to make it obvious to everyone that they stand against that fear as well.
Paulette Altmeyer.
Hi, my topic is equity. I've read the FCPS training slides where equity was defined as equal outcomes for every student without exception. That is, of course, a stunningly silly goal. Students' interests and abilities are different. The same slides, though, claimed equality means giving every student the same resources independent of need, and therefore claimed a different approach was needed. That is also nonsense. Equality in education has always meant equal opportunity, which takes student need into account. For decades, schools have provided additional help for struggling readers, school lunches for lower income students, special help for ESL students, and much more. But equal opportunity will never lead to equal outcomes. Students' interests, their abilities, their motivation level, and their work ethic differ. Parental focus on education will also differ. So the outcomes will also be different. Outcomes will not necessarily be proportional by race either, unless you think the NBA is practicing racial discrimination. Instead of creating racial divisiveness with this ethos, we should help all students get to where their talents and their hard work can get them. Hard work matters. So let's not make a mockery of student effort with stunts like 50 is the new 0. Don't water down the curriculum. These steps are harmful, not helpful. Education is not a zero-sum game. Where more help is needed, provide it. But stop harming students of some racial groups by indoctrinating them with helplessness and grievance instead of empowerment and effort. And don't demonize other racial groups. That's just racism. Thank you.
Bernadette McConville.
My name is Bernadette McConville, a mother of 2 students at Justice High School. Justice continues to fail in supporting the LGBTQ+ students by not solving the issue with the gender-neutral bathroom. Currently, the bathroom is located in the copy room near the main entrance of the school. The bathroom is being used for its intent by 5 to 10 students, and approximately 200 cisgender students use it to skip classes, use it as the restroom, or for other nefarious reasons. Those who use the restroom for its purpose end up waiting long periods of time or are forced to use the regular restroom. The administration has locked the copy room, which limits access to the restroom. When this matter was brought up by staff, they were informed the school will revisit the issue once construction is complete next year. Now construction is planned to finish in 2 years. With the high turnover rate amongst the administration at Justice, this issue will continue to be pushed back. The solution is converting every bathroom to gender-neutral bathrooms. But for now, a temporary solution would be to install a door that opens to the hallway. The bathroom must be locked, and a system similar to the Flash Pass needs to be incorporated to ensure these children have access. In regards to cost, there are grants the school can apply for to cover the expense. Telluride School in Colorado received a grant to remodel bathrooms from It Gets Better project. There is no excuse to put this off any further. The LGBTQ+ students are supported by a core group of staff at Justice, but these shouldn't be supported by the entire staff. This month, there was a hate attack against the GSA board. The school did an investigation, but there wasn't a letter to the parents. I found out by my child of this act. This act made the students feel unsafe at school. FCPS states that they are deeply committed to creating a safe and positive school environment where all students can learn. Why doesn't Justice?
Marianne Burke.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Reed. In a recent survey, a quarter of transgender and non-binary young people expressed feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, and fear. These students know that they are vulnerable to those who could bully or physically harm them, and many fear that their parents will find out about their sexual identity. Parents' inability to accept their children's sexual identity accounts for the high rate of homelessness and suicide among LGBTQIA students. This is why Glenn Youngkin's model policies for the treatment of transgender students is so damaging. By forcing the school to out the students to parents before the student is ready can take away one of the only safe spaces where LGBTQIA youth can find refuge and affirmation. The consequences can be deadly, as we found out. The day that Governor Youngkin announced his new model policy on trans students, a trans student attending Lake Braddock High School went to the nearby railroad tracks and ended her life. Thank you, members of this school board, for rejecting Governor Youngkin's revised model trans policy. But by this time next year, there will be a very different composition to this school board. I ask that every voter look carefully at the beliefs of the candidates running for these school board seats before casting their vote. I wanted to let you know that there are candidates running for school board, and particularly in Providence District, that do not support LGBTQ rights. Mr. Sabio's team, when told that this country is not safe for these students, said, well, a member of his team said that if he didn't feel safe, he should leave the country. Every voter needs to know the opinion of the LGBTQIA rights of the school board candidate for whom they are voting.
Christina McCormick.
Chairperson Sizemore Heiser and members of the board, Dr. Reed. Happy Pride Month. Thank you for your fantastic Pride proclamation and also for your gun violence proclamation tonight. It was also a pleasure to see many of you at the Cappies Gala earlier this week. I was there cheering on my nominated kiddo and celebrating the life-changing impact of the arts in our schools. I've had the opportunity to address the board before. I'm grateful to do so again. I do think Mr. Frisch might have stolen some of my notes tonight, so bear with me. I am the very proud parent of 2 FCPS students, one who's graduated, loving life in college. The other one is muddling his way through high school. Both of them are transgender. I've been very grateful for the support that they received at their school from their faculty, staff, and peers, but I'm worried, and I'm scared, and they are scared. With over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills introduced into legislation this year, we worry that it's just a matter of time before my children aren't able to access the life-saving care that they need. We are worried that their names, pronouns, and in fact their very identity will no longer be honored at school. Our family's having to consider taking healthcare steps and making legal name and gender changes before we are ready, because we fear that that choice may be taken from us. We are worried that hate, ignorance, and misinformation will win, not just socially, but politically. To that point, hate incidents against all communities have been accelerated in FCPS. Just this month alone, we've had the videotaped burning of a stolen pride flag at Falls Church High School, anti-Semitic and homophobic graffiti at West Potomac High School this month. Your students, staff, and families see these incidents, and they see what is perceived as silence or inaction. I ask you to please remain dedicated to the hard-fought successes such as Regulation 2603. Thank you.
Aaron St. Germain. Kelly Singer.
I'm a queer parent of a non-binary child in FCPS. I understand FCPS leadership is about to trot out a Pride Month proclamation. My queer child spent a huge chunk of this year in the social worker's office, the nurse's clinic, hiding in the library because their classroom was too unrelentingly hateful to tolerate, never mind the fact that the school was in violation of state and federal law. She wanted me to tell you today that she shouldn't have had to go through that. Our community is being scapegoated by a dehumanizing hate campaign that everyone with critical thinking skills knows is a cynical feint to prop up right-wing extremists. And so far, FCPS's response has been to look the other way while whistling Dixie. What are the good people in leadership at FCPS going to do about it? Kids are dying, they are self-harming, they are dropping out because FCPS is too toxic to learn, let alone thrive in. I'll be meeting with my child's principal over the summer to try and make her next year smoother, probably in vain, because the response of FCPS leadership so far has been cowardice, feigned helplessness, and complacency. And what about the rest of FCPS? Timid efforts at individual responses, general committees, the ombudsman's office are not the answer. Each family of each queer kid should not have to reinvent the wheel. This is a systemic and urgent hazard impacting our children in our schools now that needs a systemic response now. FCPS leadership needs to act now to prevent more suffering and death. FCPS urgently needs an LGBTQIA Council of Parents, Caregivers, Educators, Administrators, and Students to channel attention, communication, and responsive action to this crisis. If you fail to do everything you can to intervene in the cynical and hateful targeting of our children, if you fail as FCPS leadership to do something meaningful, our children's disparate outcomes, their suffering, their blood is on your heads. You are responsible. Do the right thing.
Vanessa Hall.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Hall. I'm a parent of 2 FCPS children. You see me here a lot. I'm sorry, and you're welcome. Today's rally against hate was held because of a recent uptick of hate in our schools. At Oakton High School, a black cheerleading coach was told by a parent that no more black coaches need apply. And at Falls Church High School, a student stole the school pride flag, set it afire, and their friends spewed queerphobic slurs. These are just the documented incidents, but kids tell me that of N slurs shouted outside the black principal's office at their school, F slurs outside of the Pride Club, and T slurs thrown out with regularity at different schools around the county. Plus dozens of stories of hate directed against students and teachers because of their race, immigration status, religion, income, disability, sexuality, or gender. The rally wasn't against an imaginary foe, but against hate spoken in this very room, mostly by people who ally with, belong to, and are paid by groups like Moms for Liberty, Parents Defending Education, Parents Against CRT, and Virginia Moms for America, all of which were identified as hate groups by the Southern Poverty Law Center last week. Many who sow disinformation and chaos have been given talking points, and some are even coached on what to say. They wish to create division amongst us and to marginalize our hardworking students. We all have to say no to hateful rhetoric, and members of the school board, please continue your current efforts and increase these efforts to mitigate and reduce hate that is interfering with our public education. Speaking of which, I applaud Dr. Reed's steadfast refusal to release the full National Merit Report. Those brave Fairfax citizens who helped with the investigation should be protected from those in our community, especially who've been in this room, who have repeatedly intimidated Fairfax students, teachers, parents, leaders, and community members. Please keep our students in education.
George Becerra.
Good evening, Dr. Reed and school board members. I want to first thank Dr. Reed and Mutu Fagbaye for trusting me to be a co-champion on the Strategic Plans Core Planning Team, along with Dr. Ivy and Dr. Spikes. I'd also like to thank Marcy Neal, Dustin Wright, and Alicia Martinez for their support in answering all my questions, requests, or concerns. You know, sometimes it's not easy working with me. This process was not perfect, but it was also a lot better than 2014. There will never be a time when the community engagement numbers will be extraordinary or statistically valid in people's minds. What I can tell you, though, is the same thing I tell the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commissioners when they have new initiatives are being created, is how many new people come out, how many of their voices are heard, emails or surveys. Not the same average folks that you see like myself over and over again, or the people who come on a regular basis. I cannot answer the question numerically, but I know after attending a good portion of other strategic planning committee meetings and community forums in person and virtually, there are a lot more new people this time around. As the board passes the new strategic plan tonight, what is next? And how and when does the implementation of the plan start? More importantly, where will be the accountability? Will this be in the form of a 5-year plan like the superintendent has suggested? Will it be operational expectations? Will it be on principals, executive principal, RASs, leadership team, deputy superintendent or superintendents, superintendent performance evaluations each year, or what? This implementation and accountability will start with the principals. The first thing that needs to be tackled with is each school improvement plan, where the principals have to truly interact and collaborate with the parent and educator community at each school, and not just the same folks they see each time at PTA meetings or the same personnel they turn to. Last but not least, you will soon come full circle in 11 days in voting a new strategic plan and education equity policy within this school year. Thank you, Dr. Reed, for making your first work session agenda item during your tenure, the equity policy, and the board officially voting on the business meeting on their last business meeting of the year on Monday, June 26th. Thank you very much.
Jeff Hoffman. Susan Otto.
Good evening. I'm Susan Otto, and I am here representing a group of parents as the director from Fairfax Speak Up. I am a Fairfax resident, and I am also a proud mom that had 2 children that went through the Fairfax County school system from K through 12 and graduated from college. So thank you very much for their great education. What I wanted to talk to you about was on behalf of the concerned parents, I'm asking you to adopt the Transparency on Student achievement resolution that has been emailed to each of you individually. And I want to thank you, some of those of you that have responded in the past. I appreciate that. To demonstrate community support for this, a petition before this meeting was also submitted with petition signatures from local parents and taxpaying residents. The ongoing Attorney General's investigation should make it clear that transparency on this issue is important, and not only to parents here in Fairfax, but across the state. While Fairfax County Public Schools announced a new regulation that was very narrow in scope and only addressed parental notification of national merit scholarships, we think our students and parents deserve better. Given the ongoing pattern of a lack of transparency, I request that you expand your existing regulation or pass a clarifying resolution that makes it clear that you're going to more comprehensively protect transparency to the taxpaying parents regarding their own children's academic performance. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Yu Yan Zhao. I'm representing hundreds of parents in our community who signed this transparency petition that Susan just mentioned. Dr. Reed, please understand there are deep divisions between school board and parents. To change and mend the relationship in our community, transparency from FCPS, ensuring parents' rights is the foremost priority. Over the past few years, we have heard previous governors saying parents have no role in their children's education. We see school board implement controversial policies with little public input. Parents' rights were denied, and people feel as if dealing with a black box when facing FCPS. Using TJ admission policy change as an example, there's no way parents can find out how the selection process works, or if there's no, basically there's no opportunity to appeal if they feel unjustified. Such lack of transparency practice and denying parents' rights is not acceptable. Tonight, please focus on this petition and note, the real victim on this merit award scandal are our children. Please bring yourself to the role as a parent, not government authority who needs to protect your own rightness. Please do not use our taxpayers' money to finance lawsuit against the AG. Please have the courage to do the right thing by collaborating and work with the community to find proper solutions. On behalf of hundreds of parents, I ask you to adopt this transparency on education achievement resolution, and please work towards rebuild our community with trust and respect. Thank you.
Elliot Bell Krasner.
Good evening and happy Pride. My name is Elliot Bell Krasner. I'm a resident of the Providence District and a proud constituent of Carl Frisch. I'm also very proud that the school board continues to recognize Pride and stands up for LGBTQ+ inclusion at a time when it's under attack in other school districts nationwide. I've had the privilege of being a religious school educator for 17 years, 10 of which have also been spent as a Holocaust educator. So I'm going to put on my teacher hat for a second and ask you all, including the audience, to close your eyes and keep them closed until I ask you to open them. Smash, smash, smash. You were in your bedroom, and all of a sudden you hear the sound of smashed glass. You race downstairs and find that your living room windows are broken. You go outside to see that your neighbors are breaking the windows of other houses and those of storefronts located on your block. You run down the corner to where your house of worship is located to find that it is on fire. You can open your eyes now. What I have described is just a tiny taste of what Susan Warsinger, at all of 9 years old, experienced almost 85 years ago during the November 9th, 10th, 1938 pogroms, known as Kristallnacht. Ms. Warsinger is still with us today, and hundreds of my 7th grade students and I have had the honor to listen to her share her story. Now, what if I told you that according to a U.S. Holocaust Knowledge and Awareness Survey, at least half and more than likely half of all middle school and high school public school students in Virginia have never learned about Kristallnacht, cannot name a single one of the more than 40,000 concentration camps established by the Nazi regime, and do not know that more than 6 million Jews were murdered from 1933 to 1945? What if I told you that 10% or almost 100,000 of those students actually believe that the Jewish people were the cause of the Holocaust? Holocaust education in public schools in Fairfax County, in Virginia, and indeed nationwide is severely lacking. But now more than ever, it is critically important. Why? By learning about the Holocaust, students learn to recognize what anti-Semitism looks like. There has been a dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidents in our country, with more than 3,600 reported in the past year. That is an average of 10 incidents every single day. They will understand why it is inappropriate to draw parallels between measures taken to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and the crimes of the Nazi regime, something that even the Auschwitz Memorial called a sad symptom of moral decay and intellectual decay. And will be able to define what genocide is and recognize the warning signs of it, so that they are in a position to speak up and speak out against those who perpetrate genocide. They will do so. As we end the academic year and look ahead to the next year and beyond, I urge all of you to work with those who develop the social studies and history curriculum at FCPS schools to incorporate a 4-week Holocaust unit and a trip to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, which is just on our doorstep. More can and must be done here in Fairfax County and our public schools in particular to educate current students about the Holocaust so that never again does not simply become again. Thank you.
Richard Porter.
Good evening. My name is Richard Porter. I'm a longtime resident of McLean in Fairfax County. As you probably perceive, I do not have children in the Fairfax County Public Schools at the moment, although I had 3, all of whom graduated from Fairfax County Public High Schools. Notwithstanding the fact that they have graduated, I've long had an interest in the ongoings of the Fairfax County Public School system, because I firmly believe that education is the critical gateway to opportunity for all of our students in this county, and that's where this board's emphasis needs to be. I also want to talk to you about transparency, but it's a different kind of transparency. Having watched the board for a long time, and I know it's views shared by a large number of other people, you are not as transparent as you should be. I think that's a widespread belief, unfortunately. A good example of that is the report that was prepared back in 2020, in the spring of 2020, about the failure of distance learning in the Fairfax County Public School system, which was a real embarrassment nationally. Now, Elaine and I have had some email correspondence about that. You're still holding that report. It hasn't been released. Transparency requires that that be released. There's no reason not to do it. I fear also you're going down the same path with respect to the National Merit Commendation Award issue. I've heard the issue, the argument that people might be subject to harassment or threat. Frankly, I don't buy it. You can release these reports, all of which are paid for by taxpayer dollars, by significant redactions. We talk about where money should go in the system to safety, mental health. You're spending it on lawyers, and you're spending too much on lawyers, in my view. I also was here back in October of 2022 when some members of this board pushed forward in a rapid fashion the ill-advised resolution on truthful education. Again, very little notice to the public, very little opportunity to have public comment. That was an embarrassment.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Kara Lewis.
I want to thank the school board for your Pride Month proclamation. I have been a proud Fairfax County parent for 16 years. I'm in the Springfield district. Honestly, I have been ashamed and fearful of the vitriol and hate that I hear coming from some adults in our community. Please stay strong in the face of the small minority who are manufacturing unwarranted fears about LGBTQ youth, accusing schools and teachers of indoctrination, and claiming that their parental rights are being violated. No one is forcing anything upon their children. These kids are simply asking to be allowed to live their lives without unnecessary interrogation and interference. In reality, LGBTQ youth are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers because they are stigmatized in society by those who deny their feelings and take away their safe spaces. It has been proven that LGBTQ young people report lower rates of attempting suicide when they have access to affirming spaces. It has nothing to do with indoctrination. It is simply a matter of live and let live. Those who claim that their parental rights are being violated want to restrict the rights of parents who support their trans kids and give them space for self-realization without indoctrination. Trans youth want to be left alone. They are not imposing on anyone else. The parental rights that some people want are literally to take safety and health care and unimpeded education away from our youth. They are trying to impose one religious viewpoint on others, that these youth should deny who they are. There is a separation of church and state in this country, which means that you do not get to impose your restrictive religious views on others. It does not mean that you get to actively harm trans youth by denying their existence. Thank you again for caring for our LGBTQ youth and not pretending that going back in the closet is a valid way to lessen polarization in our community.
We're moving on to our video testimony. Please play the video testimony submitted by Stephanie Lundquist Aurora.
Good evening and happy Flag Day. I am proud to hold high America's most inclusive flag. I heard that bothers a couple of you. When that's the case, you don't belong up there representing us. There seems to be some confusion among the board members about what this flag represents. You are attacking our children's First Amendment rights to free speech, which, in case you need a refresher, are guaranteed in public schools. Still, you compel speech with mandated pronouns and are now introducing a bias incident reporting system. Aside from issues of legality, most teachers, parents, and students are against a 24/7, 360-degree anonymous snitch line on all of their perceived biases. But you are pushing forward with it anyhow. Not surprisingly, you intend to vote on the matter on June 26th, after FCPS families leave town on summer vacation. What in the world is happening? It's frightening to watch the 1984 sausage being produced. The elected board members at the May 23rd work session were admittedly unfamiliar with a multitude of changes to the district's code of conduct, including this new reporting system. Basically, a couple of administrators, the chief equity officer, and outside contractors are working together to restrict the free speech of FCPS students and teachers. It doesn't sound very inclusive and welcoming, does it? Will you really vote in favor of that?
Madam Chair, that was our last public speaker.
Thank you. Agenda item 4.